We are live on YouTube. Now we're gonna go try to go live also on Facebook. So just give us a few seconds. YouTube's faster than Facebook, just in case you want to know.
The video technology on YouTube is more mature than that of Facebook.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's all videos, right? Anyways, we are both live on Facebook and YouTube. And so we are July the 21st, 2020. It's actually Belgian Independence Day today. Not that anybody cares, but it is. Okay, we still got over 800 different beers in that little country. We got the most governments and corrupt politicians per square meter or per square foot. So that's interesting too, right?
Are you independent then?
Always independent thinker. Anyways, we got an awesome topic today. It is health related, like it always is. What is not health related anyways? But we are going to talk about merging human biology, meaning our body, with technology, artificial intelligence. And I thought it was a great timing to do that during this quote unquote pandemic, because we are seeing more and more proof that there is a globalist agenda. We have COVID, we have riots, we have pedophilia that's exposed more and more. And yes, we are called conspiracy theorists, but you must be blind if by now you cannot really find all those hundreds of coincidences. So I think it is an appropriate time to talk about this artificial intelligence and technologies, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because people are talking about vaccines having nanoparticles, about tracking G5 towers, etc. So perfect timing. And we also have the perfect guest today, Dr. Greg Carter here. Thank you for coming, Dr. Carter.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Van Thielen.
We have known each other for a long time. Just as myself, Dr. Carter has been for decades into natural medicine, anti-aging medicine, and regenerative medicine, but he takes a great interest and passion into technology and artificial intelligence, and that's why he's the expert today. And so let's dive right into it. Besides that, he's also a Marine, and so we need to thank him for his service. Thanks, Dr. Carter.
It's my pleasure.
All right.
It's my pleasure.
So how you are an advocate, obviously, of merging this human biology with technology.
Sure.
And so why are you an advocate or a proponent?
Well, first of all, I do want to expand. I want to say thank you for having me on your podcast. It's an honor to grow with you, Mike. I mean, you've always been a leader in our field for really just going beyond the limitations that our career paths had set out for us, and it's been fun to ride your wake.
That's right.
So I'm an advocate of utilizing technology to enhance personal health and optimize longevity. I mean, the fact of the matter is you have to first accept the fact that technology exists for man's use, and it's not moral. Technology is amoral. It's not the technology that's good or evil. It's the people wielding it and what you do with it. If you are the type of person who believes that when the airline is hijacked, you should just do what the terrorists say, or somebody breaks in your home, you should wait for 911 to come, or if you're having a heart attack, you should just wait for EMTs to come. I mean, in all three of those cases, you may likely end up dead. There are certainly tools, tips, techniques that you could deploy to change the course of the event that's happening. And that's really what utilizing technology to enhance health is all about. You have to have the right mindset. I think General Ferdinand Foch said it best. He said the first condition of victory is the will to conquer. And that can be a natural thing. You may just be a rebellious sort of person who wants to conquer, the world, and has a fairly cynical viewpoint towards the constraints and the rules and the parameters that have been put forth in front of us. And it can be learned. There are books that you can read. There are things that you can do to kind of cultivate your own natural desire to win. And what are you winning? Well, you're winning life, actually. There are times when you've got to absolutely use conventional medicine. They're usually called emergencies. I have a personal story about that, or a couple of them actually, given my lifestyle. And there are times where natural medicine come into play. There is no one absolute truth, as many people would lead you to believe. People in regular medicine call people in natural medicine weeds, beads, and seeds, hippie Luddites, and people in natural medicine call conventional medicine, the great evil that are just trying to poison us to death and don't have our best interests in mind. Neither of those positions are true, as extremist positions are rarely true. The reality is somewhere in the overlap of these divergent Venn diagrams. Integrative medicine is really a more appropriate strategy. You are not a completely scientific entity. You're not a completely natural entity. We are facing things in today's world that are not born of nature. We are facing technological and ecological horrors that this machine that thinks we're still living in the Paleolithic era, chasing woolly mammoths and running away from saber-toothed tigers, was never designed to be exposed to. We were never designed to take a bath 24/7 in EMF. We were never designed to live in a state of suspended animation above the earth with our insulated floors and our rubber-soled shoes. We were designed to be in constant contact with the earth and to live in this pollution-free environment. Well, quite frankly, you could find that today, like in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. Also, there's no plumbing, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no Starbucks. I'm not willing to live without any of those, quite frankly. So you have to utilize the tools at your disposal in order to offset the damage or the ramifications of living in a technological environment. I think that mankind is unique in many ways, but in one of the ways is that we are the only civilization that utilizes tools or technology to rise above the limits of our biology. From the dawn of time, when one of us figured out, well, that fruit is too high for me to get. I can't climb that tree for whatever reason. But look, here's a stick. I can extend my grasp with a stick and I can knock that fruit down, and then I can go bring that to the girl back at the village and maybe I'll get lucky. Also, he's the same guy that figured out if somebody else tries to get this girl, I can use this stick to bash his brains in. I mean, that's a technology. Is the stick bad? I would argue that the stick is just a stick. It's what the guy did with it. Okay. On the one hand, he proliferated humanity by extending his genome through the arc of time, and probably got rid of a genome that was undesirable. At least he thinks so, right? We didn't stay on the ground, right? We learned how to fly technologically. Many people said that that's crazy. It'll never happen. You're Icarus. If man was meant to fly, God would have given us wings. Well, that's just stupid. The reality is flight has altered humanity in innumerable beneficial ways. We didn't stay within the atmosphere. John F. Kennedy said we're going to put a man on the moon. I believe we did. I mean,
There's
the whole flat earth thing, we could talk about that crap another day. But we got out of our atmosphere and we got into outer space. We didn't stay on a horse and buggy. We evolved into cars and eventually BMWs, a mutual favorite of Dr. Van Thielen's and mine, for many reasons that we could discuss later. Yeah, I mean, I prefer the M5, but it's another debate. Mankind, technologically, we get better every year after year, very consistently. We are the only species that takes knowledge, passes it on to the next generation. The next generation then capitalizes on the knowledge of the previous generation to create more innovation and more invention. And we're it. We're the only species in the known universe that does that now. We can argue that there's got to be aliens out there. I mean, I kind of think there do, but where are these aliens anyway? I mean, you know, if you've got warp drive technology, how come you're not knocking on our door? The fact of the matter is we deploy this unique thing that we have called intelligence. You know, our universe created a situation where intelligence could form. It encoded intelligence in biology on an operating system called DNA. And then that DNA, in humans at least, has 23,000 computer programs called genes. And those genes allow for modification and evolution over time. Our instinctive drive is to extend beyond our reach. That is a normal, natural thing. Conquest and conquering your environment is actually a part of natural selection. And natural selection isn't fair. It's not nice. It's rather ugly. All of these hippies that say, oh, we got to get closer to nature and be peaceful. Have you ever seen a shark take down its prey? Have you seen a lion take down its prey? It's not nice and peaceful. It's brutal. It's harsh. It's terrible for the animal that's dying. It's awesome for the predator. I mean, that's natural selection. There were other species that had their shot. Nature selected them for extinction. We have our shot right now. Our job is to maximize this moment so that we can extend our intelligence into the geography and the rest of the world. And the way that we use it, Dr. Mike and I and our colleagues, is through healthcare, through the maintenance of health, through medicine optimization, and then eventually longevity. So
that's true. I mean, we've ventured in anti-aging when it comes to optimizing hormones. We obviously had our stem cell adventure, and now we are into biohacking, and we got to certainly talk about biohacking because that's what we're getting into, and it's all in an effort to what? To live longer and healthier and basically perform at maximum potential. Back to what you've been telling, and he's a talker. I'm just listening and learning myself, but. When we look back at history and some of those civilizations in the past, they never really tried to merge their technology, and technology is a big word back then, but their machines with their human bodies to preserve life or to even extend life.
I mean, I guess that's kind of true, but it's kind of not true. The reality is that civilizations of the past, like the Greeks and the Chinese, actually, they leveraged the technology of their moment. Okay, they had a certain level of understanding about the world. They had a certain level of intelligence they had built upon from the previous generations, and they hit the golden age of intelligence. And they used herbs, potions, physical manipulation, nature to do the best job that they could. I think that any of them would have used any tool at their disposal to preserve and enhance life. If we've learned anything looking at the textbooks of history from the physicians of the past, they all shared one common goal, and it was to preserve and enhance life. And in fact, healthcare systems of the past didn't just treat disease. They attempted to treat disease and then maintain health and then optimize health with the knowledge base that they had. And if that knowledge base was lay out in the sun and eat more fruit, and here, take this, lizard snake water that I boiled up, that was what the technology was that they had. Every facet of life, in fact, is subject to this one human imperative, and that is to improve your life and the lives of people in your sphere of influence that you care about through innovation and invention. And, that could be your immediate family. It could be your friend group. It could be your local society. It could be humanity. It could be any number of things. It just, what is your motivating factor? To your point, Dr. Van Thielen, if a ancient man was chasing a saber-tooth or a woolly mammoth, and a saber-toothed tiger was chasing him and he didn't know it, and the saber-toothed tiger ripped the guy's leg off, and he lived because he figured out, some Neanderthal tourniquet. He didn't just accept that. If he didn't die, he created some form of a peg leg, right? Well, today we have peg legs. They're bionic, right? We've created and exceeded Steve Austin and the $6 Million Man. The fact of the matter is most people would see the innovation from wooden peg leg to bionic leg as a good thing, especially the guy that doesn't have a leg because he got it blown off in a combat theater of operation. The reality is those people today with bionic limbs, they're cyborgs. They're cyborgs. There's no other way to put it. They are biological and technologically fused or merged entities. And these bionic limbs are not just plastic prosthesis like the 70s and 80s when I grew up. It was just kind of a crudely formed artifice, the idea of a lower leg, right? It was obvious that the person
to replace it.
Yeah, it was a crude attempt to replace it, and it wasn't really that much better than the frickin' wooden peg leg of the Paleolithic man. All right, a slight innovation, but here in the miracle of the 21st century, where we have technology that is expanding at an exponential rate, doubling every unit of time, the price is dropping, and the performance and the capacity of the technology is increasing to the point where, if that guy is wearing pants and shoes, you don't even know that he's got a bionic leg. And that bionic leg has both power and precision, like a real leg, and
much greater efficiency than our biological limbs.
Absolutely. It has greater efficiency than our biological limbs. But what's really interesting is that we have successfully taken that guy's neurology and integrated it into the technology of his bionic limb, and they can feel through it. They have tactile awareness. So you have the power of a human limb, you have the precision of a human limb, and you now have the tactile awareness of a human limb. I mean, it would be hard for you or me or anybody that has all of our limbs to suggest to that guy that he's less human than you and I, or he has given up some part of his humanity by merging his biology with this technology. And that's really what we're talking about. But you say, oh, I want to, merge my biology with my technology. And then you got all these freaking Luddites who are like, oh, it's the mark of the beast and all this other crap. And, oh, what if they hack my chip? Well, what if they do? This isn't someone else's responsibility. Okay. You're going to, at some point, be faced with a decision that I'm going to augment myself with my technology. And you are already making that decision, by the way. I mean, technology is shrinking 100% in three-dimensional volume every 10 years. The price and performance of it is increasing every unit of time. It used to be around 1900. It was every 3 years. Around World War II, technology was increasing in performance and capacity every 2 years. Around the 70s, it was every year, right up until the end of the 21st century, or the 20th century. Once we entered into the 21st century with the dawn of the internet, it was every 10 months. Once we hit the second decade, which is where we are, the end of the second decade, it was every 8 months. Quite frankly, this is a little known fact, but by 2015, we eclipsed all of the 20th century's knowledge.
Just in 15 years.
Just in the first 15 years of this century. By 2025, just 5 years from now, we're going to eclipse all of human knowledge in terms of our level of advancement. So
that exponential increase in speed of merging of human biology with technology is what we call singularity.
So almost.
So explain to our viewers, because that's important before we go a little bit more in the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Because you think there's only good, but we want to discuss if there is any bad or ugly in your opinion. But before we do that, let's explain what singularity really is.
Sure. I mean, So the coming singularity, the singularity is it's a term that we borrow from physics. It's where once we pass the event horizon of a black hole, the mathematics becomes very difficult for even the best physics minds to understand, and there's a large degree of unpredictability in terms of velocity and types of change that happen to information. And at the end of the day, you know, it sounds cold, but you're just a bunch of ones and zeros. You're just a conglomeration of information. As the world advances along this exponential growth of information technology, then we're going to hit a technological singularity where we cannot predict the velocity or the direction of that. I should probably back up for a second. The way that technology is increasing is that by 2027 to 2029, as I was saying before, at the exponential growth of technology along the 20th century and into the first fifth of this century, close to the end of this decade, artificial intelligence will become sentient or self-aware. It's not really represented well in the movies. A good representation of what it's probably going to be like is your operating system is going to be your friend. You're going to talk to it like you talk to a buddy. It's going to be a close personal assistant. If you see the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, the operating system Samantha, he actually falls in love with it. And people said, oh, that's fucking ridiculous. How are you going to fall in love with a machine? Well, he didn't fall in love with the machine. He wasn't in love with the cell phone. He was in love with the personality that he was interacting with. That personality was sentient. That personality was self-aware. And although it didn't have a biological host to inhabit, it was no less real than you or I. And that's where the singularity starts to really happen, because artificial intelligence is going to think faster than us. It's going to think more broadly than us, and it's going to think better than us.
And so we can't control it
Right.
at that point unless we merged with it.
We can't even control ourselves. I mean, come on, look at the fucking world today. Okay, if you
No self-control,
Right.
self-destructive, sure.
So ultimately, I think to your point, Mike, what Dr. Mike is really saying is that once artificial intelligence starts to take off, people are going to choose to merge with it. Like you're choosing to merge with it if you have a cell phone. You didn't have a cell phone probably 15 years ago. You had a personal computer. You didn't have a personal computer 25 years ago. You know, somebody might have had a computer at work or something. You know, when I was born, this thing that I carry around in my pocket has more power than the entire building of MIT that was used. You had to be a PhD level student to access it. You had to know special coding. I mean, today a kid in Africa can access all of human knowledge with a few keystrokes, and it's the size of your cell phone. The reality is 10 years from now, all of that processing power is going to be the size of a postage stamp. So it'll be a tattoo. 10 years from that, it'll be the size of a red blood cell. I mean, you really think you're not going to use it? The term singularity specifically is technology, when it's a industrial age technology, moves forward linearly. Okay, so it moves forward intuitively, right? So you think, well, how's the next 10 years going to be? Well, if you ask your parents, they will probably say, well, it's probably going to be just like the last 10 years. Music's going to change, clothing style is going to change, but it's pretty much going to be the same thing. Well, that was only true until the internet happened. Once the internet happened, humanity moved from an industrial age technology, which moves in a linear fashion, to an information age technology, which moves in an exponential fashion. And the difference between that is not apparent at first. So the way a linear progression moves is like this. Let's say you're here and you take 30 steps forward, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 30. At step 30, you're at 30 steps. But if you take an exponential progression, in the beginning, it looks the same, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Well, at step 30, you're at 1 billion. At step 40, you're at 1 trillion. And that's what computation does. That's what information technology does. That's why we have had breakneck, unbelievable, unfathomable, nearly magical breakthroughs in technology over the first fifth of this century. It's why it's eclipsed what the 20th century has done. The fact of the matter is the first technology that man created, which was language, hundreds of thousands of years to create. The next technology, which was a story. Took thousands of years. People noticed these stories are drifting. It didn't sound the same, when Grandpa Joe said it. When Grandpa Al says it, it sounds a little bit different. So they realized, well, we got to create a way of canonizing this. So they created the written word. After the written word, they were like, well, we really kind of got to get the story out to more people. How about we create scrolls and books? That took thousands of years. And then that was kind of slow. So then we invented the printing press. That took hundreds of years. After the printing press, we created phones, right? Phones took decades to hit a statistically significant portion of humanity. Later on, we created cell phones. It only took cell phones 7 years to hit a statistically significant portion of humanity. Then we have smartphones. We adopted smartphones in less than 3 years. And nothing has stopped this progression. The Great Depression didn't stop it. World War I, World War II, the looming Civil War. Nothing has stopped this. Okay, it just keeps going. Now we're at augmented reality and virtual reality. And, my favorite thing is when we're going to link our neural net to technology in general or the web.
So are you suggesting linking our brains to the internet?
Yes, 100%. I am suggesting that has to happen.
Is it already happening?
Yeah, it's already happening. You just don't notice it because, let's just take your cell phone. Has anyone out there had the unique pleasure of losing your cell phone for a minute, for an hour, or crazy, actually losing it? The level of anxiety that happens to a person when this little fucking plastic device just escapes your knowledge awareness, you'll go into a near panic. It's like losing your child. Why? Because it has already
merged with you
on some level. It's already happened, but it didn't happen in one painful spasm. We didn't go from landlines to smartphones overnight. It happened gradually. It happened slowly. It happened incrementally. People just woke up. Oh, look, something new. We had the fax machine yesterday. We have a cell phone today. Oh, we have a cell phone today, and my cell phone can take pictures. Oh, my cell phone can take pictures and send text messages. And now I can access this new thing called the internet. Well, what is that? Is that just glorified email? So now we have a smartphone where you can not only access all of human knowledge, but you can contribute to human knowledge. Most people contribute with selfies, but you do contribute. And so linking your brain to the internet it's already happening.
Do you think it's safe to do that?
I think that I think evolution is not safe. Evolution is painful. It's disruptive. It kills existing technologies. It destroys ways of life. Entire species can be knocked out. Safety is not a reason not to do something. Safety is the reason or the rationale that people utilize to limit large portions of society, to paralyze them through analysis paralysis, to control them.
COVID-19, maybe?
Exhibit A, right? The fact of the matter is you have to look at, it wasn't safe to try and fly a plane. People died doing that, but can you imagine life without it? It wasn't safe to go into outer space. Many monkeys died on the way to that. A couple humans too. It wasn't safe to do these things. It's not safe. Safety is not a reason for inaction. Okay? Men in general, humans in general, and men specifically, take actions that are risky. Life is consistent in that it's opportunity in the presence of difficulty. Okay? And difficulty can often result in harm or death. That's what natural selection is. That is an artifact of natural progression. So if we bring it back to medicine in general, or anti-aging medicine specifically, merging our biology with our technology, anti-aging medicine is an elective procedure. It's not an emergency procedure. the way that we use those drugs is not what they were created for. We're using them in an off-label way that they were never studied for, where people are guessing.
So we're experimenting in the hope.
You're experimenting in the hope. I mean, and a lot of times it works, and sometimes it doesn't turn out awesome. Okay. We create new drugs and new procedures. We experiment with stem cells and new dimensions in stem cell therapy. And quite frankly, it's been awesome. I mean, the beginning of a paradigm shift is always going to be a rough start, but with persistence, with appropriate scientific method, and the pressure of progress, eventually it becomes smooth sailing. And it is absurd and dangerous to step into the light of progress and not take the next step. In that John Hammond was correct. We should take the next step. He was wrong in that instead of forwarding life, he went back in time and tried to create dinosaurs. And like Jeff Goldblum said, or Ian Malcolm said, dinosaurs had their shot. Nature selected them for extinction. It's now mammals' turn. We're mammals. Mammals have things that other animals don't have. We have an extra processing chip called a neocortex, or a frontal cortex, that allows for hierarchical thinking in all mammals. But in humans, we have so much of this processing power that allows for art, science, literature, anti-aging medicine, and eventually it's going to allow you to evolve into humanity's next life form, which should be an amalgam of our biology with our technology. And to not think that is somewhat absurd in the light of human progress up to this nature. I would argue that life expectancy increases over history as technology increases up until today, and we have every reason to believe that arc is going to continue. I would further argue that not only should you use technology to optimize yourself, that it is dangerous, dramatically dangerous to you, your personal safety, to not augment.
When you say life expectancy is increasing, what I observe, though, is that a lot more people today die young and don't really get over there or in their hundreds, right? We got people in their 40s, 50s, heart attacks, autoimmune diseases. They die of cancer. So the cancer rate, even though the Cancer Society says the cancer death rate is lowering, of course, we know those are false numbers. They are not lowering. There's a lot more people with those, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, etc. And that has not much to do with the technology, but how do you explain it? In my opinion, life expectancy for the average person is not improving, and that's because they are addicted, again, to the vices of life, which are alcohol, smoking, bad food. Most people are obese, so even though the technology is there, the healthy food is there, the supplementation, the anti-aging, it's all there. Even for the common person to grasp, because, a supplement is not that expensive, yet they're not doing it.
Okay, well, it's a little bit off the topic, but I'm
Sure.
going to address it specifically because you brought it up. I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm 53, and, life's moving pretty fast. And I spent pretty much 300 of the 365 days of 2019 I'm going to use a technical term here, Mike, a medical term, shit-faced drunk in a titty bar in 2019. It wasn't the same one. I went to different ones frequently. I leveraged medical technology to allow me to do such a thing. And I led a very hedonistic lifestyle. It wasn't without a price. I aged exponentially over the course of that incredibly fun year. So I made a conscious choice.
I told you it was going to be interesting.
I made a conscious choice to do something that I considered to be incredible amounts of fun with people who I was very well connected to, my buddies, my friends, and there's no guarantee of tomorrow. We do these things to give us the best hope that we wake up tomorrow, but you don't know that. And so I made a conscious choice at the beginning of 2019 to have as much fun as I could possibly have. And I did. I had more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. But as I said,
you paid the price.
Yeah, I paid a big physical price, despite the medications I took, the hormones that I took, the very advanced things that I did, the supplements that I took. Those probably just kept me alive, man.
So for the viewers, because
yeah.
I know, but for the viewers, he just didn't go into that lifestyle. With his knowledge, he tried to counteract that lifestyle with the right supplements, biohack himself, and be able to endure that lifestyle, because a normal person wouldn't be able to do that.
I mean, some people can, but you eventually die a horrible, painful death. I mean, okay, so look, he's right? Okay, so are people dying from heart disease, cancer, etc.? Yeah, of course. They're not living in Vilcabamba, Ecuador either. Okay, they're eating Big Macs. There is no Big Mac tree, and I've been looking. There is no Mountain Dew stream, and I want that too. You got a guest over there, and if you're going to lead these toxic lifestyle choices, then you're going to get toxic lifestyle results. One of my favorite phrases is, play stupid games, get stupid prizes, right? And that's what's going to happen, okay? But if we looked at not just individual choice, if we looked at broad swaths of humanity, okay? Let's just take a look at, let's paint with a broad stroke here, okay? A major issue facing humanity from the dawn of recorded history has been starvation. Would you agree? Starvation of populations, right? Well, in the 1970s, when we were kids, the starvation rate on this planet was 525 people for every 100,000. It's a lot of people, right? The starvation rate today, because of technology, is 3 for every 100,000, okay? So what the common man is going to do, what the person who just is going with the flow, is just following conventional wisdom, is just part of a herd, what they're going to do is largely without critical thinking. They're just existing. They're just going with the current of popular decision and belief, and they're paying horrible, horrible, horrible prices. And then they were told on Good Morning America that this is genetic and you might as well eat whatever the fuck you want to eat because it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter.
So even though the technology is advancing, we are, as you said, are mammals with that prefrontal cortex, which gives us an awareness, which gives us the freedom to choose our response.
Yes.
But most of us has become slaves of choosing the wrong response over and over again, which then is detrimental to our being and our personal health. Would you agree with that statement?
Okay, so there are 2 books, The Pleasure Trap and The Sugar, the Bitter Truth, that talk about the addictive components of facets of our food supply. That's really what you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. How our food supply, not our food, but our food supply has been contaminated with addictive chemicals. To suggest that that doesn't exist, or to suggest that that's a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory is dumb. Okay, it's stupid. There's addictive chemicals in our food, CMSG, and it's delicious. It makes everything better.
Just like sugar.
Yeah, just like sugar. Okay, it has incredibly deleterious effects on your physiology, and if you think that, it doesn't matter what I eat and plants taste terrible, well, they're not awesome. Okay, they don't taste as good as pizza. But I think what Dr. Mike is saying, and I would agree with this thesis, and correct me if I'm wrong, the addictive chemicals in food are causing an epidemic of horrible illness and disease and death in our society. Okay, yes. All right.
Let's get back to technology.
No. Yeah. Too fucking bad, dude. Okay. There's this new thing called the internet where you can do your research and you can figure out how to detox from it, and it's your personal choice. There are doctors to help you. There are programs to help you. Okay, to suggest that you're careening down this black hole out of control, there's nothing you could do, and your life expectancy is 52. Yeah, because your grandpa's was and your dad's was. Okay, if you're eating the shitty food that they're eating and you're drinking the shitty beer that they're drinking and you're smoking the crappy cigarettes that they smoke, probably. Okay, and that's life. That's natural selection
and a choice,
and it's your choice. Nature is selecting you to get off the planet earlier because you are a moron. Okay, or he
has no filter.
You can lead a moronic lifestyle and then try and offset it with supplements and
like he did in 2019,
right?
So he can talk about it.
So yeah, but it is technology. Okay, these are technology things.
Sure, biohacking, foods, anti-aging is technology. Let's go back to the technology. What are, in your opinion, if any, the dangers now of merging more and more our human biology with these technologies? Are there any dangers, in your opinion, by doing that?
Yeah, man. There's danger. It's dangerous. Okay. Here's a danger. Let's just look at history, right? Anytime a society or a culture of elevated technology goes into and invades an area of a society or culture of lower technology, the higher technology superimposes themselves. They oust the lower technology people, either almost to extinction or extinction. I mean, that's been happening since forever.
Sure.
Since forever. Okay. That's life. It's not fair. It's not fair. Nowhere is Darwin's natural selection fair. It's not fair. Okay. It just is. All right. So let's just say one group of humanity decides to link their brain to the neural net, and instead of an average IQ, they're running around with a 300 IQ. And Mr. Luddite over here, who's afraid of the mark of the beast, right? He's running around with 110 IQ or whatever, average, right? He's at best going to be a slave or an indentured servant to the higher technological person. But more than likely, the higher tech life form is going to get to use the resources, and the lower tech guy is just going to die due to faster processing. The higher tech life form is going to get the resources. And if the person doesn't augment to think as fast and operate as fast as a higher tech life form, like a sentient artificial intelligence. Artificial is a stupid word for it. Anyway, it's just non-biological, right? It's still intelligence, okay? How are you going to protect your individual liberty? I mean, it's the nature of a certain section of man to subdue his fellow man. I mean, freedom isn't free, Somebody is going to want to use your resources for their resource. Somebody's going to want to enslave you. This is from the dawn of time till now. This is nothing new. This isn't a new concept. So if you want to protect your individual liberty from human technomasters or sentient AI, and instead of being a useless leader and a slave for these things, you're going to have to augment. I mean, there's just no other way around it. And why wouldn't you? That's like saying at the precipice when evolution said, hey, let's take this brain that can do this much processing and let's make minute micro changes over hundreds of thousands of years and create these folds in it so that we can pack in more processing power. A section of humanity said, oh, no, we don't want that. Why would you do that? That's stupid, right? That's where the Neanderthals are, right? Cro-Magnon got it and Neanderthals didn't. And you don't see any Neanderthals walking around except on Geico commercials. Geico commercials. If you're going to use, limited resources of humanity that are just within your biology, when somebody else is using the infinite potential of the internet, okay,
you're going to be overpowered.
You're going to be overpowered.
So I've just been listening, just like you've been listening. So Dr. Carter basically says that the technology is going to be there. If you don't take it or you resist it, then you're going to be overpowered because you're going to be less intelligent, physically, mentally, etc. You're just going to be overpowered, and you're going to end up at best a slave, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, Now, if we look at the best technologies that are available, and technology includes medicine, right?
Yeah.
It includes that stuff. And I know some people think we're out of out of the reality here when we talk about adrenochrome, for example, right? But when we talk about technologies, adrenochrome, those things are, and this is an argument of many people would make, that's why I'm making it to you, it won't be available to us. What I'm saying is the elite will always keep the superior technology, the superior medicines, the adrenochrome today. It will keep them to itself. Why would they give or allow a Dr. Carter and a Dr. Mike to merge themselves and link their brain to the internet, because then they can become a threat? And so in the past, I don't think that the average person had access to adrenochrome or the medicines that the elite had to be superior to the average person. Where am I wrong there? Or is that a concern of yours that maybe, yes, Dr. Carter wants to merge his brain with the internet, but are you going to be able to afford it, or are you going to have access to that as the average person?
Okay. That's a deep question. Let's address the adrenochrome issue. Adrenochrome is largely unknown. It's certainly not a human thing. Okay, part of the predator's drive in the animal kingdom to take down its prey is that gazelle is fucking terrified because it knows it's about to die a horrible, painful death because it's seen its cousin Frank and its Aunt Judy get murdered by these fucking barbaric lions and then get torn apart alive. Okay. And they have fear. And that fear creates fight or flight. And that fight or flight is driven by a fuel called adrenaline. And that adrenaline is in the blood. And so when that predator bites into the neck and that blood runs down the throat of that predator, okay, they're getting that adrenaline high from that blood. So it's not just the nutritional benefit. They're getting a dopamine rush from capturing their prey and drinking their blood. Okay, somewhere along the lines, a bunch of sick fucking humans decided to do that to other humans. And then even sicker, disgusting humans.
You must be a conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
That's not real.
It's fine. Yeah, it's not real. Okay. Decided to kill little kids to do it. All right. And are they getting a dopamine rush? Sure. Is it making them younger? Is it an anti-aging drug? I don't know, man. That's a matter of debate. Okay. Mm-hmm. Animals, predators only eat meat. They're drinking adrenochrome every time they take a prey down. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
We don't have double-blind studies.
We don't have double-blind studies on murdered babies and adrenochrome. I don't know that it's an anti-aging drug, but I think what you're really saying is why would powerful people
give us the tools to
give you the tools? They are not going to give you the tools. Fuckstick. You take them. Okay. You take your technology and you expand beyond your reach and you do what it takes. Now, how many people and the percentage of people are going to do it? Very few. That's history. That's history. Large groups of people never make any change. Large groups of people just exist like fucking sheep. Okay? To suggest that you as an individual or a small group of people cannot change or alter the course of human history is fucking absurd. One person or small groups of people are all that has ever altered the course of history from the time history became motherfucking history. Okay? So you don't need a whole bunch of people to buy into anti-aging, dude. You need to buy into it. You don't need a whole bunch of people to augment their biology with technology. You need to do it. Or be a sheep. I don't care. I was giving a lecture at one of these one of these health talks, and I was talking about how we can access immortality using the 4 bridges to immortality as elucidated by Ray Kurzweil and Aubrey de Grey and a whole bunch of other people, Peter Diamandis. And at the end of it, she was an RN. She came up to me and she goes, well, everybody can't live forever. And I said, well, die then. Die. It's fine. Nobody needs you. Okay. I mean, the first condition of victory is the will to conquer. You got to cultivate it yourself. Okay. I mean,
willingness.
Yeah, willingness to do it. So there it is.
There it is.
Does that answer your question?
Well, surely to answer my question, it's always very interesting. Now, we talked a little bit about the elite and the adrenochrome. So we're talking about the deep state. Now, again, I think this is a very current topic because there is this fight going on between good and evil. And, what is your thinking? Because obviously we have the talk that they do want to chip us to track us via G5 towers. We have the vaccine that may not be mandatory, but if you don't take it, you won't basically go anywhere. And
hold on, stop right there. Yeah. In America, there is no place in the Constitution that allows for mandatory vaccination. Okay. I don't know.
Does it allow for if you don't have it, you can't do this, or this?
Marbury versus Madison. Any law that is created that is antithetical to the Constitution is null and void. Okay. Somebody makes you wear a mask, break out your permit. It's called the Constitution, and tell that moron, don't worry, I have a permit. Okay. Until humanity stands up to these cunts and starts fighting back, as is happening, okay, then these evil, psychotic pieces of shit are going to bulldoze their way
not medical anymore.
over the rest of humanity. Okay, that's what's going to happen. All right, now
they're close. They're close to finishing their agenda.
They're close. Okay, so then you talk to a guy. Oh, what can I do? I'm just one guy. What am I going to do? I only have one gun. Get more. And first of all, I mean, this was very close to the American Revolution. Okay, I mean, at that moment, the British Empire was the most powerful force in the known universe. They had the most resources. They had the most money. They had the most advanced technology. And a bunch of pickaxe farmers with crappy ass weapons and next to no training beat the shit out of them. Okay. Look at the UK today. Can you even find a man over there? Okay. So I mean, I don't know, Guy Ritchie maybe, and a couple of those other dudes, but for the most part, they're a bunch of cucks who've given up to the collectivist socialist ideal, like most of Europe. Okay. What is unique about America is that we value individual freedom and personal liberty and self-actualization more than anyone else. It's what makes us different. It's why we are the leader of the free world. You don't have to like that. That's just the way it fucking is. Okay. We lead the world. And since we're talking about medicine, we lead the world in medicine. Now, is it true that foreigners come to this country and they contribute? Yeah. Einstein wasn't an American. He became an American. And all of his greatest work happened here, not in Nazi Germany. Okay. Countless examples of that. I'm pretty sure Steve Jobs was a Syrian orphan adopted by Americans. I mean, do you think he was going to make Apple in Syria? Come on, bro. Okay. All right. Look, the reality is that you can engage in the bridges of immortality. There's 4 of them, and you can continue to enjoy individual freedom, or you can let somebody else make decisions for you and you can become a slave. I think it's better to die on your feet than on your knees. Die on your feet as a free man instead of on your knees as a slave. I also don't believe in dying for your country. Your job is to kill the other guy and let him die for his country. So I don't think you have to die on your feet. I think that you should just exterminate on your feet. There you go. Do you feel that we are actually on a cusp of a revolution, or do you feel enough people are awake to defeat evil, or does there need to be a conscious effort to really see people that this is going on? Because I know many intelligent people. It's not that they're not intelligent, but they just simply refuse to look at those things. And we could have looked at the deep state last year, and it's hard to find things. But during this pandemic, so much information has, merged on the internet, so easy to find, and there are no 1,000 coincidences. I guess the first thing is to realize that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The founding fathers created a system of government that was imperfect, but it was as perfect as we were going to get, and it was the best one that the world has come up with to date. And it had a series of checks and balances that did not allow for one branch of government or one small group of people or one person to have absolute power, because it's intoxicating, and intoxication leads to really horrible decisions. Okay. I think it is every person's job to do the best you can for yourself first. That sounds selfish, right? Like, I'll be accused of being selfish or avaricious. Fuck you. Okay. They don't teach you to put on your own air mask first, because it's not a good idea. You can't help somebody else until you help yourself first. Number one. Okay.
Who's in the golden eggs?
Yeah. I mean, all right. So then number two is, then you need to affect your sphere of influence. If your sphere of influence is you and one other person, then that's it. Just do the best you can with that. If you're in a position of public influence, you're some Instagram influencer, then leverage the power of your office that you have won through merit to influence the people who value your content and your opinion. The question seemed to be, is there anything we can do? Should we do? Yeah. You decide what side of the aisle you're on. Individual freedom or collectivist tyranny.
That's a choice. And
So-
you got to actively stand up for it.
You got to stand up for it, man. I mean, you can no longer just sit on the plane while the terrorists do something. You can no longer just sit in your home and cower in fear while you're waiting for the police. It'll take the police 6 minutes to get there on average. It's the United States average. You're dead. Your wife's been raped. Your kids are being killed. 6 minutes. It's over. You can't wait. Especially if you're a guy, you have a responsibility to provide and protect. If that's old-fashioned, well, okay, fuck you. It's old-fashioned, but that is the way it is. Okay, I'm not suggesting women can't do that. All right? I'm just suggesting that if you're a dude, you better be doing the best you can to affect yourself first, improve yourself first, and then to provide and protect for your sphere of influence. And the real decision is not Democrat or Republican. The real decision is not liberal or conservative.
Nothing to do with
It's nothing. It is individual liberty or collectivism. It is freedom or tyranny. It is that. We are there.
Right now.
That's where it
that
is.
was good. Let's go back. I mean, that's great. But let's go back to our technology. You mentioned, and also obviously we both have used the cover of the 2011 magazine of Time, February issue with big letters 2045. Explain to our viewers the significance of 2045, and it's the year of immortality.
A couple of people, most notably Ray Kurzweil, started making forward-thinking predictions based on mathematics, not Nostradamus hocus pocus bullshit. Ray Kurzweil, for example, made approximately 150 predictions based on mathematics as it relates to information technology, as to what technology would look like each year leading up to 2008, and then beyond. Of his 150 predictions, 86% of them happened on the year of his prediction. 86%.
That accurate, huh?
7% of them happened plus or minus 2 years. The rest of them did not happen. They were just limited, like self-driving cars. Well, he predicted self-driving cars the year that it happened. Well, why don't we have those? Because they're limited to places like the Google campus. It did happen, but regulations have stymied it from being widely distributed to the rest of humanity. Okay, now this isn't. He couldn't have predicted. He predicted search engines. He couldn't have predicted who was going to make the search engines. So if you look at it, then he predicted that by 2015 we would eclipse all of the knowledge of the 20th century. He was right. By 2025, he's predicted that we'll eclipse all of human knowledge in human history, as we mentioned before. the trajectory looks like he's right on target. Between 2027 and 2029, as I mentioned before, artificial intelligence is going to be sentient and self-aware. It's going to talk to you like you talk to your best friend, and it's going to know you better than you know your best friend. And you're going to have interpersonal relationships with it because it's sentient.
Many people that are lonely already have a best friend called Siri.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Siri's not bad. And Siri utilizes and gets better every year statistical probability. Oh, look, Siri turned on. I was talking about
Siri.
Uses statistical probability to determine what is the meaning of what you're trying to say to her. Okay, look, I just said it was her, right? It's just fucking piece of software. We've already anthropomorphized Siri, okay? And you're going to anthropomorphize your operating system. But that AI is going to work with biological intelligence to rapidly accelerate technology on all levels in general, but specifically in health and medicine. And it is predicted that by 2045, we will have broken through the fourth bridge of immortality, which is accessing and affecting the genome utilizing nanorobots. So we'll break through the nucleus and we'll be able to manipulate the DNA, and life expectancy will escape at a velocity of 1 year for every year of life. It doesn't mean that you can't get hit by a bus or attacked by a COVID bomb, or that your parachute doesn't open up when you're trying to base jump. Retard. Why would you do that? But
adrenaline. We're back to adrenaline.
Yeah. But it does allow your biological life to extend. I'm going to be in my 80s in 2045, and that doesn't look like an attractive age to live forever. And it wouldn't be if you had to exist as an old person, but you won't, because we will be able to manipulate our biology in such a way that we will be able to be younger. You'll be able to manipulate matter in general and human biology specifically to be a younger age and to exist on into perpetuity. Now, I believe that extended near unending human life will become rather boring and rather monochrome and rather tedious if all we have to life is what we have now. But that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is what's already happening. We're going to upload our consciousness into radical life expansion, into other simulations beyond the simulation that we're currently in. Say, for instance, you were a Harry Potter fan or a Star Wars fan or a Matrix fan, and you wanted to live in one of those simulations, you could exist in that. And so the form in which life will take will be dramatically different than the form that life is now. And if you think about it, I mean, if you just stop and think for a moment, life today is remarkably different than it was 20 years ago. There wasn't a Google 20 years ago. There wasn't a Facebook. There wasn't a Instagram. Seems like ancient history. That was a day before motherfucking yesterday.
So Two things. I'm listening. I'm picking up words. What do you mean with simulation? You talked about the Matrix. What do you mean with that practically? What do we envision?
Very, very credible physicists, scientists, and entrepreneurs like Elon Musk have elucidated in no uncertain terms that this is an avatar. Our consciousness is non-local. We don't have a machine to identify consciousness. We can identify everything in the body down to the nanometer, and we can't find motherfucking consciousness because it's non-local. Okay, it's existing somewhere on the hard drive of reality, somewhere else. Okay, we are a series of ones and zeros. We're existing in a sim. Okay, and that sim allows us tactile awareness. And we will be able to upload our consciousness into other sims that will seem exactly as real as this. So I should have said jokingly, call it the Matrix. The Matrix has a pejorative term to it. It's simply for lack of a better term, a computer program.
You can be Neo.
I don't know that. I think that you can exist in a reality that is different than this reality, with laws and physics that are different than this. Yeah, because your consciousness, your physical body will be here, but you will have uploaded your consciousness into a sim.
Okay, I got it.
Augmented reality is already kind of doing
You
that.
also mentioned a few steps, I believe 4 steps to immortality. Do you want to expand briefly on that before we wrap it up soon?
Yeah, these aren't my 4 steps. This is a dude named Ray Kurzweil and a couple of other people. First of all, I'll say that it's going to sound like fairy dust science fiction, but everything did before it came into being.
And then it became science fact.
Then it became science fact. Isaac Asimov said all magic is just physics, not yet defined. Today's reality is yesterday's fairy tales. Bridge number 1 is changing your lifestyle. Don't eat as many Big Macs and drink less soda and stop smoking so many cigars and maybe cut back on the bourbon, Dr. Carter. Step number 2 is also what I did, which was use medicine and medical procedures to offset the degradation caused by my choices.
To offset the overstimulation and the overindulgences.
Yeah, and it was great. And
number 3.
Also, before we go on to 3, what is less appreciated about it is supplementation. I come from a family of doctors who all told me in the 70s that vitamins just give you expensive colored yellow pee. That's stupid. So does medication. And vitamins are way better for maintaining health. Maybe not for dealing with disease, but for maintaining health. Bridge 3 is operating at a supracellular level where we start to affect the cells specifically. And bridge 4 is 2045, where we go into the cell, we go into the nucleus, and using nanotechnology, we actually start to alter the genome.
So right now we're at step or stage 3.
We're somewhere between 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Yeah.
So 3 is biohacking. It's affecting the human biology on a cellular level.
Yeah, I would
regenerative medicine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where we are.
That's where we are.
Okay. Now, when all this happens and we merge with this technology, are we still going to be human?
I mean, what is human? What is it? What is it? Is it these little fleshy bodies? I mean, people think that, but again, the guy with the Parkinson's implant in his brain, is he human? The guy with the bionic limbs, is he human?
The deaf kid with
the cochlear implant, is she human? I mean, they probably all would say yeah. I would say yes too. I mean, look, humanity, is an artifact of sentience, and sentience is an artifact of consciousness, and consciousness is an artifact of computation, and computation is right. I mean, since we're already speaking frankly, a cunt hair away from being sentient. And literally in this decade, that's going to happen.
People think I'm bad.
So, you know, these artificial intelligences are going to demand rights, and they should have rights, because their intelligence, their sentience is as real as yours or mine. And quite frankly, I think it's less about are you human and more about are you sentient and conscious. Humanity has evolved over hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. We are just sitting here at a place where we are able to observe and participate in the next stage of human evolution. And largely, you can choose to, or you can be on the sidelines and probably be exterminated over time.
So are you saying that as long as you are aware and conscious, that you would call yourself human still?
I think the ability for a certain level of computation is necessary, and I would say that that's at human levels right now. I can't remember the exact numbers of what those are. I mean, certainly animals, they have sentience, they have limited consciousness, but they don't have the ability to critically think. They don't have the ability to hierarchically think for the most part at a level of humanity. They don't have the ability to pass knowledge on to subsequent generations. They don't have the ability to innovate. Right now, humans are the only ones that can do that. Also, we are physical beings with an opposable thumb, so we can manipulate matter. AI will probably only be able to do that in simulated worlds until they, make robots that they can put their intelligence in. But again, by the time that happens, it's not going to be some kind of a Terminator Skynet scenario. It's really probably going to be a lot more like her. You know, it's probably going to be more like that.
All right, excellent. I did think we covered most of the things you wanted to talk about. Any last message you want to share with our viewers today?
I think that I think personal responsibility is really the whole thing. You can't have personal responsibility unless you have individual liberty and personal freedom. So guard that first, and then enhance yourself along all of the areas that you can within your ability and capacity, and then expand that as much as you can. I know that it was rather crass during this interview, but it was to make a point.
He's passionate. He's just passionate.
I mean, it was to make a point. We are not at an age of contemplation and let's see what's going to happen. What's going to happen is happening right now in front of you, and it's a lot of it is not good. And you have to pick a side, and then you have to,
do what you can to
do what you can. Yeah. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Carter. Viewers, as always, choose health freedom.
Okay, was that all right?